Welcome to Nephew and Uncle Basketball Banter. I'm Ryan Woolley, the nephew, joined by my uncle and coach, Dave Scholler. Uncle Dave, we're going to get started. We're going to pay homage to two guys that we lost in the basketball community. Al Trautwig, who was the voice for Knicks basketball for a long time, did a lot, with the pregame and the postgame, and he just
Sure.
passed away at the age of 68. When I think of Knicks basketball, he's someone that comes to mind. Great velvety voice, paying
Yeah,
homage.
never an agenda either. I mean, for a person your age, that's all you've known for Knicks basketball.
Yes.
Never an agenda. Always pre and post was very professional. Never a scandal.
Yep.
Just a solid pro, and we're missing that in today's world. Just solid pros. And Al Trautwig, yeah, I did know he was sick. I guess that's the way he wanted it. I respect that.
Yep.
But yeah, solid professional, and definitely be missed. His voice was just very solid.
Yeah, he was just excellent, I think, for the game. His contract expired in 2019, so that was when we last saw him. But
Right.
apparently he was on a mission or was writing a book about, his career. So sad to
Sure.
see him go. But he was, like you said, just the consummate professional. He was just really
Sure.
excellent, really just was great for, I think, I watched, I think, the pregame and the postgame because of him. Thought he was great. And, you had Wally
His
Zimmer
voice was
back on.
great.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely had a voice for TV and radio for sure. We'll certainly miss him. So I thought we would start with that. And Gene Hackman, Uncle Dave, passed away.
Oh, my
And
favorite sports movie of all time.
exactly. Well, we're both movie buffs. We love Gene Hackman regardless, but he might be in the best sports movie ever, Hoosiers. So Gene
Yeah.
Hackman at the age of 95. And we're not a crime show, Uncle Dave, but it's very bizarre that scenario.
Yeah.
Apparently, they thought it was carbon dioxide poisoning, but he had no carbon monoxide in his lungs, and he was 95, so obviously Gene was at the end of it, but his wife was in her 60s, so
Yeah.
hopefully they'll get to the bottom of that.
Yeah, I hope so. But Gene Hackman, one of my favorites, Mississippi Burning, great movie. He's also great in Hoosiers, obviously. He's great in my first favorite movie as a 5-year-old was The Poseidon Adventure.
Uh-huh, that's a
And
great movie. That is an
Gene
excellent.
Hackman that's my first favorite movie of all time. So when you're 5, that's the first movie you really remember a lot. And that was one of my faves. He played the minister. But great in so many movies. The Firm, he was great in The Birdcage, just French Connection, just so many great movies.
Enemy of the State, Will Smith was excellent as well.
Yeah, very good. He's just a such a professional, and like I said, one of my faves. It was funny because I was saying to someone a couple of months ago that when him and Jack Nicholson both weren't doing well, and when you lose both of those, that's gonna be a tough day for me. And then Dustin Hoffman is old too, so that would be tough. Those are three faves.
Right. Yep. You were up certainly admiring their films for sure. And
Sure.
and Gene Hackman, he played, I thought, an excellent role in Hoosiers, where he takes the drunk father for one of the one of the players on the team, and he makes him his assistant.
Shooter.
He purposely gets thrown out of the game, and he's
Yep.
like, "All right, you're the coach now," because he's like, "I
You're the
need that
boss.
guy." Yeah. And then the
Two
one
things
part,
about that. First, he based his character off of Bob Knight because it was Indiana basketball.
of course, yep.
Secondly, when he hands Shooter the little velvet purse, that's Denny Crump. Because Denny Crump would always have the paper rolled up, just like that velvet purse that he had in his hand. He had that little leather purse in his hand, that little like thing he handed. That was a mark of him being the coach, and he held it in his hand every
Yeah,
game. If you go back and watch, and then he hands it over to him. That's Denny Crump. Denny
I
Crump
wondered
always
in
had
that
the.
movie, looking back on it, I'm like, was that a play sheet or was that an
I
emotional
guess.
like support kind
Well,
of
well,
paper?
it's funny. Think about it. He makes that movie in '86, I think, and Denny Crump wins the national title that year. So he probably watched a lot of basketball. And Denny Crum always had that in his hand. It wasn't his was a organized looking piece of paper, but still he handed it over as a sign of it's your team now for the night. And just a great movie. Well done. People don't realize that's Oscar Robertson on that team in the finals. Just South Bend. It's Oscar Robertson, one of the greatest players of all time. So yeah, it's my favorite sports movie. But then again, it's funny. I did a podcast on my favorite sports movies of all time. My buddy Glenn Allen, best man at my wedding, is in film industry himself and helped make Cinderella Man, which is one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, there's so many great moments in that movie with Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. The one where they go to like the state, like the final game there, and they're playing in this big arena, and he measures
Sure.
the court and everything, and he basically says, "Hey, it's the same dimensions and everything." I think
Yeah.
it's a very very cool moment there. And the one
Yeah.
where he's first taking over for the team, and the guy who's running the practice at the time. He's like, all right, maybe like we'll be like, co-assistants or whatever. And he's like, your coaching days are over.
Well, these parents these days, you definitely got to be like that.
And the and
Funny
the
thing is, the other thing about that movie is, I don't know if you remember this because you're young, but in '07 when we were making our dream run, I
yeah, yeah,
played
you
Hoosiers
had it on.
in
Yeah, you had
practice
the,
every
the
day.
Hoosiers theme music on. I thought that was, you know
Every
what?
day.
Yeah,
I played the 7 different Hoosier songs. I still have it on my Spotify. And I played that. I played this like 26 minutes before practice. We had warm-ups. And the guys would just get in there and do their things. And I had Hoosiers playing. Everybody thought it was corny until we won. And then all everybody wanted to talk about was, holy crap, he has Hoosiers playing. I'm like, yeah, what'd
yeah,
you think? Like,
yeah.
what am I gonna do? Play something where we're losing?
Not to sound too sappy, but there's something kind of enchanting and mystical and magical about that music. It's like the March Madness like theme music
Oh,
where
it's the best.
we're gonna have that coming up. There's something in the air when
It
there's
is.
playoff basketball that you kind of need a little bit of magic, a little spark, and I think that kind of, that soundtrack really illustrates that for sure.
Yeah, and when you're on that run, those magical things make the kids believe.
Absolutely, yeah.
So like, we
Yeah.
were a 6 seed, but we really were a lot better than a 6 seed. We got hosed on the seed, but that's all right. So we beat a team that was 18-2 first. Then we beat a team that was 20-3, both on the road.
Incredible.
And everybody's like, well, how you doing that? I'm like, well, we're better. So, but yeah, music was on every day. And we watched it on the way up to Glens Falls. Didn't get the same result up there against Mookie and the boys, but it was
Wow, magical
fun
year
run.
though.
And Gene Hackman, one of the faves. And speaking of that team, Mike McSloy is in the NCAA tournament,
Yes, I
24,
saw them. Yeah, we're getting
24 and
there,
3
awaiting their
with
bid.
the
Yeah,
the Drew Rangers. So very proud of Mike. We've been touting Drew on here for several weeks now. I only reached out to him after they won because I'm very superstitious, and he's like, "Yeah, I knew I wouldn't hear from you while I was winning." I said, "All right." So great to see that. He's well deserved. Mike's uh, doing a great job. Did a great job at St. Joe's, and this is his third year. So, like we said last week on the last show, that first time a team in the landmark has ever gone undefeated in the regular season, and they did it. They played 345 at Ramapo on Friday against Mary Washington, Matt Tracy's old school for St. Anthony's alum.
good stuff right there. The former
Yep.
player and alumni of Kings Park. You're getting it done at the college level. There was a good coach at St. Joe's too, where he played. The
Yes.
son played for him. Mike
It's all
McSloy doing
connected,
good
man. It's
things.
all basketball. It's all about relationships.
It's just life lessons and everything too, and it gets you. How many people you've met through basketball. It's incredible. It's just
Best
it's
thing
bigger.
ever. And
The sport itself is great, but it's the relationships and the people you meet.
oh, it's the best. That's why I can't give up coaching. It's funny. One of
Wow.
my good friends, known since high school, and Al Chandler, Smithtown East, lost tonight in the county semis, and this is his last year. And it's funny because he's done with coaching, and so when I just watched their time run out against Hills East, there was the victor in the game. Just I don't know, it's weird seeing Al being done with coaching. He's been coaching since Chiefs was 16. So that's a little weird for me to see him done. And last night I texted him good luck, and he's like, "Oh, how about you?" I go, "Nah, I ain't walking away yet. I'm not
Yeah.
ready yet."
Nope. I mean, every coach that steps away or the player, they tell you it's the preparation and the competitive nature of playing or coaching. It's a high that, we've all
Yeah,
experienced that we
and
relish doing that.
yeah, and that's why that music gives you that little extra high. The music of
Oh, it's
Hoosiers or the
absolutely.
music of March Madness,
It
and
takes it takes you just from here to there, just a little bit more.
yeah,
It's
it takes
a
you,
little
makes you
extra
a little
spice.
quicker,
Yep.
makes you step a little quicker, and just no, it's been a weird week because, like I said, I have one friend done with coaching, one of my former players having a hell of a year, and one of my other players did a hell of a job. He's an assistant at Dartmouth for ladies, and he's recruited the rookie of the week, like the 3 different girls that won it. Those are his recruits, and it's Rob Ismay. So they're both having such success. Both totally different players, and both having success. So
Oh,
it's
it's
a
great.
it's
Yeah,
proud
absolutely.
to
Yeah, it's like
watch.
almost like being a proud father moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're a basketball father. Yeah, you're a basketball father. Yep.
Yep. All right, Uncle Dave, we're going to transition to our next topic. We've been talking about this guy now for a couple of shows now, here and there. UNC just extended Hubert Davis his contract
Terrible,
through
terrible
29 to
move.
30. And the timing of this is really bizarre because, like you said, you follow the social media basketball landscape here, and you've been saying UNC fans are out for blood with him. So that for them
Oh,
to
they want to
sit
kill him, yeah.
down here and say he's our guy now for the next several years, no questions about it. I'm sure a lot of them are. It's an eyebrow raiser and a head scratcher for sure. So, what do you think of this decision here by
Well,
North Carolina?
I think it's a decision that means they're going to give him one more year. Because I'll tell you what, if they don't get more talent in there, I read someone who said, but we've been saying on here the other day, this is the least talented Carolina team I've
It
ever
is,
seen.
and
And I said,
UNC
look,
fans are even saying that.
yeah. And I said, as a hater of Carolina, I can honestly tell you that this is 100% accurate. Now, I know they had teams in like 92 that weren't, maybe they weren't there yet and things of that nature. And,
But that
but
team, those teams would kill this team though.
yeah, and those teams had guys who played in the league like Hubert for
Eric
a long time.
Montross.
And, those teams were tough. And, just they weren't great, but they were tough. And this team is just not, they're not big. This is the first Carolina team I've seen that isn't big. And yeah, so I'm glad for Hubert. By the way, they just extended Red Autry up at Syracuse one more year. I guess they're gonna. I just read that before we came on, keeping up to date with everything. And they fired the Utah coach because he's not Rick Majerus, so they got rid of him. But so it's an interesting time of year. Like Miami's getting their ass kicked by Georgia Tech right now as we speak. They're going to have the worst. They're going to be 2-17, and not everybody makes the ACC tournament this year. So this is going to be it for them this weekend. I still got the beautiful uniforms, but Georgia Tech, one of the hottest teams in the ACC, by the way, going to be 10-9 after tonight, and that's pretty impressive from where they started.
I think UNC, the message they're trying to send is he's a former alum. He was an
We'll
assistant
give him
here.
another year.
They want to give him another chance. So I'm not certainly as a Duke fan. I mean, to me,
I'm happy staying.
I will tell you this: it's definitely was something, especially the timing of it. This is a team that might not make the tournament,
Right.
and you're telling me if they have this kind of year again next year, that there won't be extreme types
Yeah,
of
they went
calls
in tonight. They've blown
for a
out
dub.
Tech at Virginia Tech. But like I said, they're gonna. That's why I think they're gonna give Duke all they can handle on Saturday because they need that game, and they're gonna make that the life and death game. So Duke's got a tough game Saturday.
So Hubert Davis, he extended through the 29 and 30 season. What you said also a few shows ago that I think made a lot of sense is that Hubert pleading his case is like, look, the NIL landscape, it's shifted dramatically. We're going to get this front office and this GM thing going in here, and we'll have a more productive team. So I think that's the play that he probably made. And we've
Yep.
talked about it too, that it's shocking for UNC to be behind the curve in such a
Yeah.
endeavor. So
Well, they hired a guy. They hired a GM named Tanner. So he's a former NBA guy. So they did hire one already. So we'll see how that works out for them.
UNC, what their recruiting will be like in the next year or two will be very telling.
Yeah, they better get some studs.
So we'll transition, Uncle Dave, to another topic here. Greg Popovich is stepping down for the rest of the season. He had an in-person meeting with the Spurs team. He says, I will, quote, I will continue to focus on my health with the hope that I can return to coaching in the future. And I just wanted to bring this up just to say, just retire. Just retire,
Yeah,
Greg Popovich,
yeah,
please.
yeah.
You have nothing left to prove. You were a great
No,
coach. You coached Hall of Famers, all-time great teams with Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan. I know Wembanyama is a generational talent we're probably seeing here, but I think it's just time to hang it up. Give it to one of your young assistants and let them have a crack at it. Great coach, but I
yeah.
think it's just with your health and everything. I think he should just focus on that and just be an advocate for the franchise and have a presence maybe as a small role in the front office or something. But I think he should leave coaching. I think behind him now. I think nothing left to prove.
Well, like I said, Greg Popovich has nothing left to prove. He's a Hall of Famer, obviously, first ballot if there was such a thing as first ballot, second ballot, but he's definitely a Hall of Famer. But he should walk away. I mean, basketball requires crazy amount of energy compared to coaching so many other sports. And the only two guys I've ever seen who are energyless in the sense that never get tired is Bill Belichick and Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino coaches the exact same way now that he coached when he was at BU. It's crazy. So they're tireless. They just go all the time, and I think that it slows you down. I will say Pop did have the worst 22 seconds in the history of coaching. It's still my
Yes,
belief that I've ever seen
yes, it certainly
against
is.
the Heat. And
That's
but
got to be one that haunts you forever.
But then he tried to overcover it by giving everybody great handshakes and hugs after you blew a series, and then tried to deny it and give the guy in the media session who asked you legitimate questions, several of them because you blew the game several times.
I
About
think there's no doubt about it. The last, since obviously Duncan and everything, he's not as good of a coach. He's just short
no,
tempered.
well, who is?
He's just kind of an old grouch now, I think.
Well, that's the other thing too. And I've always said this line to you. It's dangerous when you believe your own crap.
Yeah.
So the Jimmys and the Joes, we all know that quote from Jimmy Johnson, and there's a lot of truth to it. Obviously, Pop gets the most out of his guys. We all know that, which is the mark of a good coach. But when you start believing that, like your crap doesn't stink, and let's be honest, he had three of the most coachable players in NBA history,
Yes.
all foreign born, by the way. You had Tony Parker, you have Ginobili, really the GMs deserve this credit, and you had Tim Duncan and you had David Robinson, who's probably the easiest going American born player. So you had those four Hall of Famers. You saw what happened when those guys left and Kawhi was left to his own devices. Kawhi was like, all right, I don't want to deal with this guy. Well, welcome to the modern American player.
Right.
So, he's a great coach. He should walk away for your health. You should always walk away. I understand not wanting to walk away. Like I said, I've seen a bunch of guys walk away recently, and I don't understand how they do it. But yeah, I would always be an assistant somewhere. But I don't know how guys walk away. I
I
don't know. The
think some
game's in you.
guys are afraid to walk away because they think they'll just evaporate, and they'll just
Yeah, well, the
disintegrate.
game's in you too. It doesn't leave,
Yeah.
and you have to be in the gym. The
Right.
gym is it's like a heaven.
Yeah, it's you know what I think he should do something like what Bob Knight did. When Bob Knight retired, he went to the booth, and he
Yeah, he'd be
broadcast the
great.
games.
He'd be
I
great in
think
the booth.
absolutely. I think he's got a good sense of humor, Popovich. I think he would be great at like one of those pre or post game type of shows. I think he should lean into
Sure,
that. So
sure.
we'll see what happens with Greg Popovich. But obviously, like you said, a Hall of Fame player, one of the best coaches ever. I just think at this point in his career, with you have health complications and you've won 5 championships, there's nothing obviously left for him
No,
to.
you got to go.
So Uncle Dave will transition now to our college basketball here. What have some of the games that have stood out to you since we've last were together, and
Well,
what do you foresee going forward here?
yeah, two things I wanted to bring up though on this front. I don't know if you saw Saturday. The game that stood out to me was Danny Hurley, who everybody's been bitching at because in America we hate guys who win. So Danny Hurley, and no one hates UConn more than I do. They're fans of the biggest pack of assholes you ever meet in your life. Sorry if anybody out there's a UConn fan, but I'm please give me a call. I'll defend myself. They just act well, like it's just go to an arena where they're at. It's just incredible. Uh, and then people are screaming at Danny Hurley and making fun. So the other day he purposely calls timeout so Providence can get their two walk-ons in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now, if he's such a bad guy, I guess I'll tell you what. 30 years ago, there's not a coach in America that would do that. So if you think he's such a bad guy, let's go back in history and see who did that at that level. This guy's a national championship coach. Bob Knight never did that.
No.
Coach K wasn't doing that. This guy called timeout for opposing players. And that's the thing. People want to get on this guy, but when he does something good, you don't hear a damn thing about it.
Oh, he's certainly great for
So,
college basketball. It's also
yeah,
pretty cool when you took me to Eastern Invitational for the first time. He did a lecture there at Seton
yeah,
Hall.
that's
He
right.
did a like an in lecture like workout. Like this is what you'll be expected to do if you're a college player, and it was excellent. So
Rob Kennedy.
definitely,
Yeah,
yeah. So we've both seen him up close. So he was
yeah,
excellent then, Danny Hurley, and he's been a great coach wherever he's been. He's won at Wagner. He's just been an excellent coach no matter where
yeah.
he's been.
And he's an interesting study because he was never the player he wanted to be, but he's a better coach than he ever thought he'd be.
Well, it
And
works out
so,
that way usually. The player that
yeah,
was kind of the meat and potatoes kind of player, like Bob Knight wasn't a great player. He was a role player.
right.
Coach K,
Same with
same
Coach
thing.
K.
Larry Bird, he coached and he was like, I don't want to do it. Magic
I
Johnson, same thing. Isaiah
don't
Thomas,
want to deal with
same
these
thing.
guys.
Yeah, Michael Jordan was a terrible front office guy. It's funny how
Yeah,
that works. The guys you're gifted in one way supremely, but it doesn't mean it translates to the sideline or the front office.
well said. And
Well,
the other thing I want to talk about is a lot of people, talk about. I heard someone say about Tennessee the other day about how this is their best team. Let's want to make sure that people understand something. There's a big distinction between it being your best team you've ever had and your best chance to win. They're totally two different things. So you can't tell me this Tennessee team is better than last year's Tennessee team, but this Tennessee team has a better chance to win because there's no UConn standing there. All right. So last year, everybody knew in the whole country UConn's the best team. This year, you'll see it debated. It's Duke, it's Auburn, whatever you got. And I give Auburn credit. Bruce Pearl's a great coach. Duke's very good team. They're blowing out everybody. But that UConn team was different. So that's why no one thought they were going to win last year, Tennessee. It wasn't that they were a great team, but some years there's a once in a lifetime team there. And UConn was that team last year. They beat the hell out of everybody. You didn't have a close game. So, people forget that having your best team and being the best chance to win are two different things sometimes. And that's the problem. So, last year Tennessee was good, but they don't have Dalton Connect this year. The kid Lanier is good, but he's not Dalton Connect.
Right.
So, but the thing is, there's no UConn this year, so of course they got a chance.
Yeah,
So that was the second thing I wanted to talk about with college. Danny Hurley being the first, but again, we had the other day we had Arkansas come out and score like 17 points in the first half for South Carolina. Are they still on the bubble? They suck. How can we sit here and talk about Arkansas? What in the hell? And Joe Lunardi's got them and Oklahoma, who's 4-12 in their league at that point, in the discussion.
yeah, I think
I'm like,
some of these people are just homers for the head coach.
what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
are they paying you money? I mean, like, are you got to be kidding me?
right.
So here we are. And I constantly hear this conversation. I'm watching basketball tonight, and well, some teams don't figure it out to the end, and everybody agrees with that. I've
Arkansas,
heard that
Uncle
saying.
David's they're 44 in the power index right now.
Yeah. So what's their record in league right now?
Right now, Arkansas is they're 6-10.
Yeah, get the hell out of here. 6-10, get out. You lost to South Carolina. Who they didn't just lose; they got blown out, and they looked like they didn't want to be there. They had 17 points in the first half.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't want to be there. You ain't going to the tournament, bro. Then Oklahoma, they look like crap. They finally win a decent game, but yeah, they're not good either.
They start out 13-0 too.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, so that's my point. So tonight, the last couple of weeks, all you hear is, "Oh, these teams are finally figuring it out." Well, then why are we rating November games the most important?
Or did
You
they
can't
just
have it
happen
both
to stumble
ways.
across a victory? That I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like they figured it out. Yeah.
yeah. So, like, what are we doing here? Like, we can't have it both ways here. There has to be a criteria in order of importance. This is the same problem with Section 11 here, by the way, which got some good county finals set up here. We got Half Hills East is playing William Floyd this week, and then we got Smithtown West versus Amityville. And so those have been two good finals, and tomorrow's the single A semis. So we'll see what happens there, but some good stuff in Section 11. But you can't have it the same. You can't have the same argument for two different reasons here. It just does not acceptable in the logic. You'll take a logic class. The thing is, if you're going to count so much on the old early games, then we can't discount the late games then either. Like you can't have it both ways, and that's what we're doing right now.
I think the early games, I think, if anything, they should be less valued because
Far less valuable. You're not
you're not
finishing
the
strong.
exactly, you're not the same team. Nobody's the same team now that they were 3 months ago. So
No,
to
for
value
better or
those
worse.
games more, I think is absolutely ludicrous. The games that are mattering now are the ones being played now.
Yeah, and
So,
Rutgers tonight getting blown out by tonight's the night of the blowouts again. Rutgers getting smashed by Purdue, so I guess they're going to be done. Carolina smashing Virginia Tech. Like I said, Miami getting crushed here. It's the night Kentucky beat the hell out of LSU. It's the night of the blowouts. And by the way, your boys at Kansas lost again last night, but at least they played well.
yeah, Kansas, they're definitely not my boys, but I definitely thought that they were like an early favorite. I thought to a good
They
bet
were.
to win the national championship. So
I
like
would have
I said,
guessed
I
it too.
don't know what I mean. It is absolutely absurd. If you would have told me they would have been 10-9 in conference in the Big 12, I would have said you're absolutely out of your mind. I saw them being like a Houston 18-1 in the conference. So
Yeah,
the fact that they're right now, they're behind Houston, Texas Tech, Arizona, Iowa State, and BYU. And that loss to BYU, boy, that 30-point loss. Has Kansas ever lost? But I mean, like I said, you could probably count on one handful, right? How many times Kansas lost by 30 ever? Absolutely
never to
absurd.
BYU. I mean, maybe since Danny Ainge was there.
So right now, like I said, we're in March. It's our Christmas right now. We have tournament time coming up here in Selection Sunday in less than 2 weeks. So it's absolutely going to be a blast coming up here.
Yep. We did see St. John's clinch the Big East first time since 1985. That's 40 years ago. So I
How
remember
about
that
that
team.
stat, Uncle Dave? Rick Pitino, he's won a conference, I think, in five different schools. It's incredible.
Yes, and he's also his second year is always also such a big improvement. His second year everywhere, he wins something, and it's Yeah, he's taken five different teams to won five different conference titles, five different teams to the tournament. He's just
That's a
really,
testament,
really,
right, to
really
how
impressive.
excellent he is as a coach, no question.
Yeah, he's a beast. So he's just one of those guys that like I said, he's one of the freaks. He just gets it done. He's no less energy now than before. He's ridiculous. He still works out his
Oh, it's
players
in his
one on
blood.
one every day.
Yeah, it's in his blood. You can see
He
him.
works the guys out. He gives them their workout, one on one workouts every day. I mean, I don't know how the hell he does that. That's exhausting.
No, you could see how intense he is at practice still. A guy that's been as great of a coach as he's been for that long, you would think there's just no way. But he still
Yeah.
is. He's just a freak that way.
And he's in his 70s. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I
Yeah.
mean, here he is. He's just amazing. He's a freak of nature. He really is.
It's poetic
But
justice that he's finishing his career here on the Northeast coaching St.
oh,
John's.
it's great. Well,
It's excellent.
he's a Oyster Bay guy, so he's a St. Dom's grad. We won't hold that against him.
Poetic
But
justice. Yeah.
you know, it's great to see him. And like I said, Cooper Flags look good in the ACC. Clemson continues to roll. Wake Forest with a couple of tough losses. SMU still doesn't have Boopy Miller back, and if they had him, I think they win two of their last three, and then they would have been in better shape right now. So they're probably going to wind up missing out for Boopy there. It's such a great point guard. It's funny thing is, Wake is on the precipice of being out, and yet starts for Kentucky and Boopy Miller starts for SMU. With those two guys, who knows where Wake is? You know, and they're still there. So it's a credit to Coach Forbes. But it's some great basketball going on right now in the SEC. Obviously, Tennessee played a great game. They beat Alabama. That was a fantastic game. Alabama blew that game down the stretch. Alabama's had a rough couple of weeks. I think they've lost three out of six. So obviously, there's some wrinkles, like we said, with Alabama. Tennessee still looks good, though. Like I said, their offense sometimes disappears. When Lanier's hitting, they're a totally different team. But who knows if that's going to be the same. The Atlantic Sun Conference tournament has started last night. No big upsets last night. And the Horizon tournament has started tonight. So like I said, last night, the top two Florida Gulf Coast lost last night. They were a third place finisher, so that's a little bit of a shock. But the top two in the Atlantic Sun both won last night. So like I said, tonight is the Horizon Leagues just starting up. So it's gonna be a blast. Like I said, I think Miami just sealed their fate. They will not be in the ACC tournament. Villanova was losing tonight to Georgetown. I'm not sure where that game's at right now. They think they took that game off the tube, so I'm not sure where that is. Virginia and Florida State are on in a minute. So, but like I said, I think Villanova's pretty much out by now. I think Rutgers, even though those are my guys, I think they pretty much sealed their fate. It's so a couple of the people that were on the list for going to get pushed out. Like I said, it's funny because we covered these lists and some of these guys got re-signed this week. And like I said, the guy at Utah did get pushed out. So you know, it's a tough time of year for these teams and their families, I guess, these coaches and their families. It's tough.
How about the Illinois at Michigan game, Uncle Dave, over the
Oh,
weekend?
great game.
Wow.
Michigan is tough. The kid Wolf is very good. He's from Yale. And this is where I was saying to you last week, how are these mid majors going to pull off all these upsets when their kids leave now to go to big time major? But look at James for Duke. I mean, he comes from Tulane. Tulane's not even Tulane's in the middle of the pack. Not been good for years since Rob Williams was down there in 1982, I think. But but the thing is, like, he's got to he's got to play for Duke, and it's a bit more fun to play for Duke than it is to play
Yep.
for somebody else. So that's the big difference there. So you get these mid-major guys, and all of a sudden, they go to the bigger school, and that's why I don't know if these mid-majors will be able to pull off all this upsets this year.
I
We'll
think
see.
one thing you're seeing with the NIL, you're going to have a guy who maybe he's been a successful player at a mid-major for 3 years, and he's got a lot of rebounds and assists and points or whatever, and has really etched his name and history in that program. But he's like, all right, I got one more year maybe to win a national championship, and maybe it's always been your dream to play for a Duke or a North Carolina or a Michigan. Those guys might peel off and take a lesser role to play at those programs to win a title.
Well, look at
James
Gillis.
on
He
Duke
probably
is one of them.
Yeah, look at Gillis. He probably figured that 80 left. Purdue is still very good. That's one of the best coaching jobs in the country this year. No one gives Matt Painter enough credit. But the
Yes.
thing is, you look at those two guys, and then the other day, Rick Pitino's team clinches, and the best guy in St. John's the other day was Kadari, and that's Seton Hall's player from last year.
I know it's crazy
And
the
then the
turnover.
Louisville coach, he was at college at Charleston last year, and they had Stony Brook's best player from the year before. So it's they got to do something about doing this in conference stuff. It's I just
You have to have
I
a
don't want to
rule
bring
for
up
that one. I agree.
I don't want to bring up names when we were at St. Dom's one night, but there were people recruiting John Schmidt after the game out in the parking lot. So yeah, I don't want to use
Water
names,
under the
but
bridge now, and it's a while. Like it's post 10 years now, so I think
yeah. So they were recruiting John Schmidt after the game, and I was like, get the hell out of here! Don't go near my guy. But you got to stop doing that in league. There's got to be a rule for that. Baylor and TCU are tied at the half, but there's got to be a rule for that. It's just not right. I mean, we got to have some rule because think about it. Me and you were in the handshake line during a game, and I whispered to you. I mean, what the hell is that?
I
You
know,
know,
I
want
know.
to talk about starting brawls? I mean, like you can't even trust what a guy's going to say to your player if they're allowed to transfer, especially with social media and texting. You said
Oh,
one of
it's
you guys, yeah,
crazy.
text your high school teammate who's now on the other guys, who's on the other team in your conference. I mean, it's bad. It's bad policy. It's a bad look.
To call it
We've stooped to it.
prostitution wouldn't be a harsh enough term, I think.
No, we've just stooped to another level. That by the way, Kyrie Irving tore his ACL last night,
Yes.
so he's out.
Yeah, that's the nail in the coffin for Dallas, that's for sure.
Suggs is out for the rest of the season too, so that's going to kill the Magic because they were getting hot again with our boy Paulo Banchero. But by the way, Gonzaga's worked their way back into the top 25. A little bit of a rally just when everybody tried to bury them. Them and St.
Never count
Mary's
them
out
out.
there
Mark Few.
looking pretty good. VCU's looking really good. There's some really, like I said, the lower levels this year I think are going to get hosed on this bubble because of the SEC and some of these people in the Big 12 are way overrated too. Big 12 is now what everybody thinks it is. There's a couple of teams that I really want to talk about underachieving. I feel like Baylor has been underachieving. Baylor, we all, they got the stud from Miami. They got Roach, and they got another big good big kid, and they're just 500 and they're pretty much 500 in the Big 12. And Baylor, I still wouldn't want to see them in my bracket, but really scary that
Like you said, you could get a top C and you could get them in the second round. Are you feeling like
yeah,
that's not a gimme game for sure by any
no,
means?
and you know how hard Baylor plays, and so
Absolutely. Yep.
they're like Houston in that regard. I know Houston's a much better team, but they just play so hard that just scares the hell out of you.
They gave Houston at Houston though. They gave them a really great game, so they're a
Sure,
tough team for sure.
absolutely. They're a very good team, and they're a scary team in every regard. And you're scrolling down here, you realize how good some of these teams are. But in the SEC, for example, let's go down here again and check this out. We got again Oklahoma 4-12. Joe Lenardi says they're on the bubble. I mean, you got to be kidding me. You're 4-12. Like you're 4-12. I mean, like, so why not just put all those teams in 4-12? I mean, you have to be kidding me. So
Yeah, you
I
can't
don't know
be
how
doing
you're on
that.
the
You can't
bubble at
you
four
you
and
can't- you
twelve.
can't you can't be putting people who are at the bottom third of their conference in the NCAA tournament. There's just no way.
Plus,
Like you said,
plus,
you're
think of how
ridiculous.
foolish it is. Oh, well, they have all those quad one games. So basically, what you're saying is all you got to do is be in a good conference, and that's
Yeah, but you
enough.
automatically get in then because everybody is a
Yeah,
quad one game. Then that makes
yeah.
no
So
sense.
then, so then the Chicago Bears should have made the playoffs this year. The Vikings division, the NFC
Exactly,
North,
because it was a great
had the best
division, right?
record and had the best
Right.
record in division history. Did the Bears get in? No.
No. Yeah, it doesn't
And
work that way.
this is disgusting. And I don't want to hear about Oklahoma. You're 4-12.
Right.
Go play in traffic. Do something else because this is ridiculous. You should not be able to get in at 4-12. It's disgusting. It shouldn't happen. Like I
If
said,
you're
Florida
you at
Gators.
minimum have to be 500 in your conference. That's how I
Yeah,
view
I
it.
mean, I like I said, hey, I can live with 8-10 in a great SEC this year. I'll live with 8-10.
Right.
I'll hear you out if it's a soft bubble. If there's a situation where VCU doesn't win their conference tournament, VCU better get in. VCU's been great all year in the Atlantic 10. I mean, VCU deserves to play basketball.
Yeah.
VCU is 14-2 in the league and 24-5 overall. So if George Mason, who's very good history, as we know with Coach Larinaga, or Dayton, who has a great history, pulls this off, you got to. Oh, I'm sorry, these guys deserve a shot, and it's not great, but they deserve a chance. They've earned it all year, and
It's like if
Marquette.
it's like in the Mountain West, Uncle Dave. If the Mexico Lobos, let's say they drop in their conference tournament, you still want to see them in there.
Absolutely, they've earned it. And if we're going to talk about body of work, and here's the other thing: again, is Carolina going to play Mexico? No, Is Duke going to go do it? No.
No, they're
And
afraid to
like
death of
nobody,
losing that game.
yeah, nobody
Yeah,
wants to go there. And
yeah.
what we need to do in this situation is, if we're going to have with these early games mean so much, then we need to have, like I discussed with you last podcast about how Duke in the old days always played an out of conference game like Shire did with Illinois. I think we need to force that and tell everybody that in February you will play a Power Four school out of conference.
I think that's
I
great. I
think,
think, and you
and
have
I
it at a
think it's a
neutral,
good,
have it at a neutral site.
yeah, neutral or whatever. I don't care. I have a contract, a 2-year contract. Do it because you know what? It's not right. If you're going to do this, then Duke just beat the crap out of Illinois, and Illinois gave Michigan all they can handle. So what does that say about the Big Ten?
Right.
I'm not a person who likes to compare scores like that because I don't think they mean anything. But if you want to play the game of these stupid people with Ken Palm and net and all this other crap, well, if you want to do that, then we're going to have to compare scores. Well, if you want to compare scores, Illinois and Michigan game, Illinois, Illinois, I mean, what they win by? 10? I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, Duke beat the hell out of Illinois, right?
Yeah, it was a
What what was the
beatdown
score?
that game. Oh, the Illinois game for tonight.
Michigan. Now, Illinois played Michigan over the weekend. What was that score?
Oh,
Didn't they beat them?
Illinois wound up beating them by like 15.
Yeah. And Duke beat the crap out of Illinois. So, like, if you want to play that way,
Yeah,
we could do this. And again, and this is what's annoying is that for the casuals who don't understand hoop, this is all about matchups. All right. So, if you get a team that's methodical and you got to go play Michigan with Wolf and the big boy Golden, that's gonna be trouble. Like you're gonna have a tough time. If you
absolutely.
if you're quick enough and you can turn them over, then you're gonna have no tough time in Michigan. So like again, it's about pace of play. It's about so many things.
Yep.
And it's just
Matchups.
it's just crazy.
Maybe a guy
Matchups and
feels ill.
styles.
Maybe a guy gets hot. There's so many different coin flip
Well, that's the
type of
old
factors.
expression. Styles make fights, and here these guys, styles make fights. I mean, West Virginia, they're talking about them on the bubble. They're 8-10. I'm sorry, they don't belong in. I'll hear out like if Utah was 8-10, but Utah's 8-10. I mean, well, maybe I'll listen to them. Georgetown tonight, I think lost that game. I think Villanova might have come back on them. So Villanova would be 12-8 in the Big East, maybe, but they're simply done because Virginia beat them early in the year. But Rutgers losing tonight, 7-11. Nebraska's playing tonight. Ohio State plays Nebraska tonight. How can you tell me that Ohio State at 8-10 when the Big Ten is good, but it's not that good? So now you all been killing Mike Woodson in the Big Ten. Now he's right back in the mix, and I'm hoping that they win. I'm hoping
I
that
am
they get
too.
in.
Just the irony of that. If they win tonight, Uncle Dave, they're 10-9 on the Big Ten.
Would love it. I'm rooting for Indiana, the red and white. Uh,
Those
go around
candy
the leagues
striped
here.
pants.
Conference USA, obviously Jacksonville is still in first, not by much. Conference USA is like the renegade league of like there's no there's no geographical advantage anywhere. Robert Morris on top in the Horizon League, which is interesting. Because Robert Morris has always been an East Coast team forever in those leagues, and now they're kind of in the middle of the country there. Yale way out in front of the Ivies. Dartmouth is going to qualify for the playoffs though for the first time in their history. Now and again, the conference tournament thing is not really been too long in the Ivy League, but at least they qualified. So that's gonna be fun to watch. Quinnipiac is out front with Marist and Merrimack chasing each other up there. Mount St. Mary's obviously is hanging around up there too. Hofstra and Stony Brook locally. Tough break. Farmingdale lost on a crazy shot to Yeshiva in the Division III championship in the Skyline, so they're not going to the 20.
You're
Yeshiva
not
beat them out.
you're not getting that on any other basketball show, I guarantee you.
No, you're not getting that. Central Connecticut, 14-2. They're still strong. LAU, my alma mater, 12-4. We're hanging strong. Hoping that we could pull off something in the conference tournament there. As LAU's invested heavily actually in their sports, the Brooklyn campus and Division One facilities in some of the cases over there, so they've invested heavily. Auburn 15-1 out front in the SEC. We talked about the SEC. Chattanooga Moccasins of 15-3 in that Southern Conference. We talked about them. The Southland Conference, McNeese State, old Joey Dumars there, old school there, and the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Southern Jaguars are out front. So it's gonna be fun. Looking forward to these conference tournaments, and they're always a blast. And it's just gonna be A lot of fun. Some of them are already underway. They're not. You go to ESPN Plus, you can get all the games pretty much. As Virginia and Florida State just tipped off at JPJ Arena there with that beautiful V in the middle of the court there. So Florida State and Virginia both 7-11. Both situations with interim coaches. Kind of ironic. It might be the first game ever with both coaches being interim. So it's a weird situation.
And then you got tomorrow, you got Maryland and Michigan. That'll be an excellent game tomorrow, a
It's a
top
great
25
game.
matchup. Yeah,
Love Maryland.
that'll be a great. And then you have Florida and Alabama tomorrow as well at 7 p.m. tomorrow on ESPN2. That'll be really interesting to watch. Like you said, Alabama, they've kind of hit some roadblocks here in the last couple of games, the last 2 weeks here. It's still 12-4 in the SEC, though. It's still an excellent team. But like you
You know
said,
what?
the three ball, though, if you it's a coin flip some nights on that. If it's not going, then they're very vulnerable.
What's funny, the stat on them I heard was they were taking, I believe it was the most threes, but were only in the 300s as far as production in Division One, as far as percentage goes. So it's a
Yeah.
math problem.
31%. Yeah, they're not shooting a great percentage of them. Yeah.
But the guy that's killing him the most is Nelson. Remember how good Nelson was last year? Nelson is not
Yes.
doing anything for them right now.
Right.
I'm not trying to blame any one kid, but he is not the same player this year. You can see he hasn't changed his body with those facilities. I'm sure he had the chance to change his body. He's still flabby around the arms, but he has not produced this year, not the same way. Sears has been streaky. They're very dangerous, obviously, and they're fun to watch. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. Obviously, Alabama's a legit team, but you get them in some slow down game with somebody who's local to the arena they're in there, and everybody's
Yes.
going to be rooting for the other team.
Yep.
So it's quite scary.
And then you get to then the tournament time, you're shooting in these huge arenas. It's totally a different type of look when you're in the background and
Absolutely.
everything. So, and on a neutral site, and you have another great team in front of you. Those teams that rely on the three ball, they could get a little
Sure.
dicey sometimes, maybe.
Sure do. They
So it's
totally
like,
rely on the three ball. But I think Alabama's pace will help them. But again,
well,
it's
that's
like
the thing.
matchups.
That's the thing. Yep.
Suppose they start running up and down with a team that plays nine guys, just like they do. There goes your advantage.
Right.
So, that's my point. Like you just don't know who you get. So like if you get a team like, if they get a team that plays like UVA's pace, obviously it's a tremendous advantage. But if you get a team that plays eight or nine guys and plays a fast pace, you get somebody like, the anteaters out there, they're going to go up and down with you, and they play nine or 10 guys.
Well, I
It's
will
not
say
going to be,
the
it's not
one
going to be
thing
easy.
the one thing about the NCAA tournament that's great about it is you're going to face different teams. You're going to have a left hook. You're going to have a jab. You're not going to get the same exact team 4 or 5 different times. So it really is a testament just who's the overall better team because you have to be able to fight different styles and everything. So
Sure.
it's always interesting to see how the tournament shapes up, and you do it, and it's condensed in a short period of time. So it's
Yeah, it
just
is.
that's why March Madness is called Madness because it just truly is. In your conference tournament, you kind of have the scouting reports on everybody, well in advance and everything. And then the
Yeah.
tournament time, it's like, all right, you got 2 days to prepare for a team you've never seen before. It's just insane.
Yeah. Like if you look, like North Alabama is 14-4. Suppose the North Alabama gets to go play Alabama somewhere.
Yeah,
North Alabama is 14
they're
and 4 to
relishing that
20.
moment. They're relishing
Yeah,
that
they're
chance.
23-9. They're playing with house money. Like you get them in some neutral site. I mean, good Lord, everybody's rooting for North Alabama.
Absolutely.
So I
We
mean, it's
love
a
to see
situation.
we love to see David slay Goliath in
Yeah. Well,
March. We love it.
you've seen so many over the years. I mean, and all you can remember where you were for every one of them. I remember Kenny Atkinson slaying Indiana like that, man. It just crushed them. It was great. Kenny Atkinson handling Indiana, and it was great. And then
University
watching,
of Baltimore, Maryland County against Virginia.
oh yeah, against UVA, yeah. And then, Furman a couple of years ago, it's another world. I mean, Stevie Nash beating Arizona. Just stuff like that. Just, games. I was in the Carolinas watching that. Just so many crazy memories. Mississippi, Mississippi State losing to I want to say Valparaiso on the Winthrop play that we run over the years. So there's always been so many great plays and great shots and great memories against these smaller teams. George Mason pulling off some good games. Lehigh versus Duke, Mercer versus Duke. It's always got something good in there. It's like putting your hand in a Cracker Jack box. You just don't know what you're going to get. And at the bottom, you don't know what the prize is. So it's kind of cool.
Certainly is. All right, Uncle Dave. We'll call timeout and head to the locker room for the night. All right.
All right,
That
sounds
one
good.
right there. But we'll definitely get together later in the week because after all, we're down
Oh
to
yeah,
we're down to it right now. March Madness will be here in a couple of weeks. So these games, these last regular season games for conference seeding and everything are huge. So
sure.
we'll definitely be tuned into that. All right. All you basketball fans out there, live long and prosper, and may the force be with you.
Peace out.